To discuss this further, I am joined by strategy analyst Dikbo Oyewole. Thank you for your time, Dikbo. Now, how effective have past government interventions been in addressing Nigeria's food insecurity, particularly in the light of this projected 82 million Nigerians being at risk of hunger by 2030? And should we take this forecast again, seriously or with a pinch of salt?
Okay, well, with the current realities we have on ground, I'd say we take it seriously. A whole hog seriously, I'm not sure. The numbers may be a bit exaggerated, but at this point, we don't want to take any chances because invariably we're dealing with human life and human sustainability. And either way you look at it, it's a fundamental human right of anyone to be fed, to have access to food, to have access to food security. But with regards to past interventions by government, how effective it's been, I'd say it's been somewhat effective. We can't say everything has been rubbish. It's been somewhat effective, but unfortunately, that the actual impact that we're hoping it would have had that's not what we have as a reality, unfortunately. But it has been somewhat effective. But what we've also seen in time past is that with certain individuals, they find ways to see how they could circumvent the entire process and sabotage it. I'll give you a very good example. Now in Lagos State, Nigeria, the state government constituted markets in different parts of the state, different local governments. I can't remember the exact number now. And for everything you buy there, everything has been subsidized by, I believe, at least like 40%. And I believe 2 months ago, the Commissioner for Agriculture was seen in a particular video where she summoned the market folks and she was complaining bitterly. And what was the issue? It was that certain folks would come from outside the market, buy up subsidized goods at the 40% rate, take it outside to resell at exorbitant prices. So these are part of the issues that we're facing as a people, and these are part of the issues that the government is trying to see how they can curtail. Now, I'm not holding brief for the government, but I'm just trying to lay all the factors on the table. Adequately, you've said that climate change is a problem, pests are a problem. In Nigeria, insecurity is also a problem. But I believe that when we want to have these conversations holistically, we must see that all the factors are on the table and we know where all the challenges are coming from.
I think I'm going to stay with you on the analysis you gave, as regards people sabotaging the process itself. I mean, do you think also that the government, is doing enough to properly handle this human factor when it comes to the aspect of sabotage? Because I also, go into the market sometimes and I ask, why is it that basic food items keep, increasing almost every time? I mean, one excuse they all keep giving is transportation. But then when you look at it truly, yes, we know the current rate per pound price. But I mean, if you look at it, commensurate with the items they're selling, you would ask, something isn't adding up here. What do you think can be done to control this human factor of sabotage?
Well, unfortunately, what the government can do for now is mostly reactionary on a case-by-case basis because they don't also want to come off as being draconian. But the reality of it is this, and I'll go back to the point you made about people using transportation as an excuse, because I've been having this conversation for a couple of months with a lot of people in different spaces, and that's the excuse. So I'll give a brief analysis of how that transportation bit is not entirely true. Last year, we removed the fuel subsidy, right? The cost of items went up, cost of food went up. They'll tell you that, because so they could have access to other commodities and other items, they also needed to increase the price of their items. Fine. But at what percentage? Because if we're saying that's cost of transportation, we know for a fact that over 80 to 90% of the vehicles that bring all these farm produces from the market, from the farms to the market, are diesel powered. And we know that the subsidy on diesel has been removed forever in Nigeria. So why is the fuel subsidy that was taken off of petrol now affecting the cost of transportation on vehicles that are powered by diesel? So that in itself will simply tell you that people that use excuses like that and that are very comfortable with coming up with a lot of still excuses
All right.
of that kind and not operating in good faith.
Do you think some elements of enforced
that's really
price?
just the reality of it.
Do you think some element of enforced price control on the part of the government should be an option?
At this point, yes, it is. At this point, yes, it is, because we run the risk. I don't want to be an alarmist, but we run the risk of having food riots and different social breakdown as a result of people saying that they don't have access to food they can buy, having access to food they can afford. So yes, at this point, I personally would endorse the government coming in to see how they can control the price one way or the other. I'm aware that there's trying to see the modalities to see how they can go about it, but I would recommend that it be done. And if it means that they need to collaborate with different people within the value chain, within the agri value chain, with regard to using technology and other things, even if it is using USSD, where you can say, okay, we have contact with the farmers. We know that this is how much a bag of tomatoes is leaving the market. And you can say in 10 local governments in a particular state, the margins between them is maybe 10, 15, 7 naira. And how much is that particular batch when it finally gets to the market? So we can also get that data from that end to know where the problems are coming from, because this is really not sustainable and people are really groaning. People are really complaining. The cost of to buy a crate of egg now is around 5,000 naira. That's ridiculous. And it's been going up year on year in the last 2 years. The last time I had this conversation, it was months ago when the price was starting to go up and it was becoming something that was unreachable to a lot of people. And we're talking about eggs now, just basic eggs. Not even the chickens that lay that people cannot afford. So anyway, these are things that I believe that the government can do to ensure that they get it done.
All right, Dikwa, just a quick one before I let you go. Now, we've talked about food availability. Let's talk about the production aspect. And of course, we know that on the production aspect, there's a bit of constraint in terms of security, importantly, and then there's also liquidity in terms of funding and all of that. But right now, I think Nigeria is at a pace where production, doesn't seem to match up with the population explosion. And other options, alternatives, are beginning to come up. One of it is GMOs, that's genetically modified food items. I would like to know your take on this.
Yes, it is true that we aren't producing as much as we're required to have, but GMOs for me is a no-no. It's a no-no. We've had this particular conversation as an alternative, I believe 5-6 years ago, if I'm correct, and I did a bit of a deep dive into it. And I can tell you that GMOs are not something that we want to have introduced into the Nigerian system. It isn't. It isn't. I'll give you a very, very brief scenario. So, for example, you want to grow strawberries in the Nigerian climate, and I'm sure the only place that maybe we can have the temperature to grow it is maybe somewhere like Jos. So if you want to grow it in somewhere that's hotter than Jos, you want to grow strawberries in there. So you need to look for a particular animal that has a huge resistance to heat. Then you extract something. I mean, scientists can fact check me on this, but from what I understood from it, I'll just give a layman's explanation of it. So you extract some enzyme from that particular animal, let's say a lizard, that makes it resistant to heat aside from its skin. And then you inject it into the seed of the fruit you're trying to grow, and you grow it, and then something that's supposed to take like 3 months pops out in 2 weeks, and then you go out to sell it in the market. Now, the problem is when you consume that particular fruit, because your body isn't designed or equipped to process that particular enzyme that was extracted and infused into the fruit, then it just lodges somewhere. Then you have a lot of that consumed, and then we're wondering where all these strange ailments are coming from, all the strange cancers, where they're coming from. So these are part of the issues. And this is one thing that they're dealing with a lot, especially in the place like the US, where they have basically majority of the food items being genetically modified. So personally for me, in Nigeria, GMOs are a no-no. Its long-term benefits are just significantly more damaging to us as a people, to us with our population. But addressing the current volume of production that we have now, we'll have to look at insecurity. We have to look at the issue of pests. We have to look at the issue of financing, see how we can make financing accessible. With the issue of climate change, I mean, we can only react to that. There's nothing we can do about it, except to see how we can have maybe floating farms, depending on what you're trying to have. Grown. So that would be my recommendation. But GMOs, again, emphatically, I would say that's a big no.
All right, Dikbo Oyewole, a strategy analyst. Thank you for your time on the news.